What's up, and thanks for stopping by. I'm glad that you're here today because today we're going to get down and dirty. Well, at least we're going to get better acquainted. I'm glad that you're here, and I'd like you to take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button because it means a lot to the number crunchers over at YouTube, and it would really help out this channel as we try to grow. Growth is something I'm trying to be very intentional about as we go forward, so thanks a lot for doing that. So I've had friends ask me, why are you doing a YouTube channel? What's that all about? And I think probably the best way to answer that question is to give you a little bit of background about my career, because everything happens within a context. I will say that first and foremost, I've always been enthusiastic about YouTube and other social media platforms. But YouTube specifically is a platform that is changing how we communicate, share, teach, and get information and entertainment. I have never had much of a hobby. My life has been focused on work, doing a lot of work. However, much of my work has allowed me to realize and develop my interests in various areas of life. Much like hobbies only work. I have always been involved in coaching and creating, but those things played out within the scope of my career. I joined the Army at age 17 and spent 28 years serving in the active Army as well as in the Army Reserves. In that time frame, I served in a wide variety of roles, including armor crewman, tank gunner, paratrooper, drill sergeant, company commander, as well as a battalion S3 staff officer. I went from enlisted to commissioned officer status during that time frame, and I had great experiences. And after 28 years, I retired in the rank of major. I also spent 26 years serving in the California State Legislature, working between the State Assembly and in the State Senate. I worked for 26 years there as a member of legislative staff, 18 of which were as a chief of staff. My role as chief of staff was to be primarily responsible for the success of the political and legislative policy objectives of the member that I worked for, whether that was a senator or an assembly member. During that 26-year time frame, I worked for several members of both houses of the Assembly and the Senate. While working in the California State Legislature, I also started my own political consulting firm where I focused on meeting the communications needs of people who were seeking elective office. So you may be wondering how I spent so many years in the military as well as working for the California State Legislature. And it was because I spent most of my military time in the Army Reserve, I was able to do both of those things at the same time. As it relates to starting a YouTube channel, the common thread between my work in the United States military and in the California State Legislature had certain common threads. Those things also carried over into my work in the consulting arena. When you boil it down to the things that I was actually doing in each career field, I was a coach. In the United States Army, serving as a drill sergeant, I was a coach helping new soldiers through the soldierization process, gaining the technical and tactical proficiencies that they needed to be effective on the battlefield. Again, it's a role that I took very seriously, and it required the full spectrum of communications tools and engagement to make sure that we were successful. But at its core, I was teaching, coaching, and communicating. The same is true of my work in the California State Legislature. When you boil it down to its component pieces, my role focused on coaching and communicating. I had to be able to effectively coach a newly elected member of the legislature and their staff on how to be as effective as they could on the floor of the legislature and in navigating their legislative package through the entire process, as well as within the third house and navigating the complex relationships of their own caucus and interacting with members of the other side of the aisle. I used to tell the people that I worked for, you can do everything right in the Capitol setting, but if you're not communicating what you're doing to the people you represent back home, they have no idea what your accomplishments are. They don't know what you're doing. It's up to you to communicate those and to do it effectively. In the end, doing all of the right things is only 50% of success. The other 50% is being able to communicate them effectively. And that is where my interest in social media, YouTube, short form video, and the full spectrum of communications tools really took root. As a political consultant, It was pretty rare that I ever had a client that had an unlimited budget. I had to learn how to build web pages and build out the content across platforms of social media in order to get the maximum effective use of those platforms and to communicate our message effectively. Candidates who did that succeeded. Candidates who couldn't do that didn't make the connection, they didn't make the sell, and they failed. This is also where I learned to make very basic short form video content and do my own editing. At the time, hiring a full video crew for production was very cost prohibitive. There were some campaigns where you had to do that. There was no escaping those costs or cutting corners. But in local races for judge, sheriff, district attorney, board of supervisors, or some city council races, it just wasn't in the budget. And so we had to do it ourselves. Within the context of those settings, I had the opportunity to learn how to maximize those social media platforms as well as incorporate the video communications and messaging, and it proved very, very helpful to me. Those candidates and clients who were able to do that effectively, to do it well, had a real competitive advantage over those that couldn't. So all of that is to say, I've had a long-term interest in the creative side of video marketing, communications, and messaging. It's just something that I've always enjoyed doing. And because of the diversity of my experience, I saw what I think is an opportunity to share my own unique experience here on YouTube. If you're a subscriber to my channel, odds are you're a Facebook friend, an acquaintance, a former work associate, or maybe you just stumbled across the channel and you've subscribed, and for that, I'm glad that you're here. But whatever brings you here, over the course of time, I'm going to be sharing content and experiences and personal perspectives. We're going to become better acquainted as a consequence of me producing these videos, sharing my observations, and you joining in. And for all of those reasons, I'm glad that you're here. I'm ordinarily a pretty private person, and so this process is going to cause me to open up in ways that I haven't in the past. As I share experiences and perspectives, I'm hoping that that can be useful and informative. Now, I actually started my YouTube journey on January 26th of 2020, when I set up my YouTube account and then I did nothing with it. I didn't post any videos, pretty much did nothing. I didn't create any videos here or post them until June of this year. Like I said, I've been doing short form video creation and content creation for many years in my work, in campaigns and elections for clients, but never anything for my own purposes. I decided that this year I wanted to take the opportunity to further develop my own skill set and to become better at what I was doing. And this was the opportunity for me to do exactly that. And I wanted to take my background in teaching and coaching and apply that here to YouTube, specifically to create videos around travel experiences, technology, doing reviews, and sharing my perspectives on the things that I'm using with you. And I absolutely believe that there's an audience for this kind of content. Being retired military, I'm able to fly for free on a space available basis anywhere within the continental United States and its territories, and soon I'll be able to fly anywhere worldwide. There may be a few minor fees involved with that, but the bottom line is I'm able to do that with a few of my retired military friends and share those travel adventures, share those destinations and locations and experiences here with you. Again, as for the question of whether there's an audience for the type of content that I'm going to create, well, according to globalmediainsight.com, in 2021, YouTube had over 2.6 billion users. That's 2.6 billion. If just 0.1% of those users have an interest in the content that I'm producing, that would be 2.6 million potential subscribers. And that would be great, but that's a number that far and away exceeds my highest ambitions. The audience is absolutely there for the type of content that I want to create, and I absolutely believe that the audience is there for the type of content that you might want to create as well. There's an audience for every type of subject that you can conceive of, up to and including people who record themselves sleeping and then uploading it to YouTube. And there's people who watch that. Now that's not the sort of thing that I'm gonna do here, and nor is it the sort of thing that I would watch, but they're out there. Something that I really wanna emphasize is that I think that there is a quiet but massive shift away from traditional media towards YouTube and streaming video services that's underway right now. I guess it was probably a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and when we were under lockdowns, but I began binge watching and streaming media content on YouTube, and I discovered certain channels that I really enjoyed. I particularly liked travel and sailing channels. Now, I've never sailed a boat in my life, but I became a big fan of channels like Sailing Zatara or Sailing La Vagabonde, and found the people who put those channels together very engaging, very entertaining, and I watched many hours of those channels. I found it to be great entertainment, but there are thousands of different channels, from gardening to home repair, appliance repair, even a channel where a guy starts every episode off with a beer as he does small engine repair in his garage. He has a highly successful channel with a very large and growing followership. I think it's fantastic. I won't be starting every episode off with a beer. The thing that's significant to me is all the data indicates that people are quitting their paid subscriptions from satellite TV to cable TV subscriptions and moving over to streaming and platforms like YouTube. It reminds me of those days back when Blockbuster Video was dying a quiet death because of the changes ushered in by technology and a tectonic shift in the way people were getting their entertainment. You remember Blockbuster Video, right? Well, if you're young enough, you might not remember them at all. I decided that this would be the year that I would actually start making video content and putting it onto my YouTube channel and putting it out there. I do regret that I didn't actually get started back in January of 2020. I would have been so much further ahead, but I am where I am. I'm started now, and I'd like to invite you along for the trip. So if you're considering starting your own YouTube channel, what I'd like to do is encourage you, or maybe you already have started your own YouTube channel. I'd like to encourage you not to let fear, doubt, or concerns that you may have about what other people would think about what you're doing get in the way. If you have an interest or if you're excited about starting a new YouTube channel, I would say the most important thing that you could do is just get started. Also recognize it's going to be a shaky start. I've looked at the early videos of some of the biggest people on YouTube, and you know what? They were sketchy. The videos that they put together were not great, but you know what? They persisted, and that is inspiring because it means that you can too. Now, I'd like to know if you have a YouTube channel or if you've considered starting a YouTube channel. Please leave a message in the comments below. I'd be very interested in hearing from you what the challenges that you've experienced are, or what concerns or impediments might be preventing you from getting started. If you've already identified a niche or a subject, let me know what that is in the comments below. I'd be very interested in hearing from you. So that is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it here on YouTube. I look forward to sharing new adventures with you. I upload weekly each Sunday, so make sure that you hit like and subscribe and check back. And if you click that bell, you'll get notifications every time that I upload a new video. Again, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the beaches.
You gotta understand that we get one chance, one